Hello, Pete's Packs here, and we have today the first of Universes Beyond Lord of the Rings Commander, or Tales of Middle-earth Commander. Today is currently the 5th of July, so of course my neighbors are still setting off fireworks. I've been waiting all day for them to stop. They're still going. So if you hear any background, pops and clangs or whistles, apologies. They're having a good old time, which, yeah, that's cool. I appreciate a good firework every now and then. Let's see what we have. So this does have 4 different decks, and we are going to enumerate them with our numbers. We have Hosts of Mordor, which is going to be deck number 1. Elven Council, or Council, which is going to be deck number 2. Food and Fellowship, which is going to be deck number 3. Deck number 4 will be Riders of Rohan. Now, each of these do have a collector sample booster, so we will separate those and do those as a separate video. This is Grixis, the Hosts of Mordor, which is the first one. So let's switch over. Let's switch over to the doc cam and get into this. So we've got our nice Universes Beyond Hosts of Mordor box. Now, I have gotten a few questions lately on what is a great way to start Magic. Well, if you are interested in Commander, these decks are actually a pretty good place to start. They're not super expensive, they've got a lot of good stuff in them, and a lot of good paths to upgrade. I personally am not a big Commander player, and I also just realized that these had perforated sides. I could have just butterflied them like that, but it's all good. But I do enjoy deck building and helping other people with their decks. So, we do occasionally do Commander content. Now, these Commander decks are a little different. They have a small punch-out token. They've got 4, 8, 10, 12 tokens this time. And then 2 more punch-out tokens on the back. This one does not... excuse me. Oh, it does actually come with a deck box. It comes with a fold-up deck box that is themed for the deck. It's, of course, having Saruman and Sauron. Pretty sure that's Sauron. And we have our collector booster sample. Oh, this one got very bent. That is unfortunate. Yeah, there is a hard bent. We're going to have to file a replacement claim with Wizards. That's unfortunate. Looks like it got bent by something. I'm guessing I don't know if you can see that. It is like a boomerang. That's so sad. But it's alright. No use crying over spilled milk. We'll pull that. Of course, each one has a little fold out. Nice double-sided 0 to 40 life counter. This has a little blurb that goes over the rules for Commander, playing the deck for this specific one, and then a blurb about the commanders that come in it, and some of the magic color identity, and why this is in Grixis colors, so that's cool. Not seen that before in these products. Huh. So we'll put aside the insert so we can harvest those tokens later. Now let's get into this. So this is Sorin Lord of the Ring. What was the actual name of this deck? A little scattered today. This is the Hosts of Mordor. The Hosts of Mordor commander deck. Let's get into this. Alright. So we've got our face commander, Sauron, Lord of the Rings. So 5, and then blue, black, red. You have a legendary Avatar Horror. It's a 9/9. When you cast a spell, amass 5 orcs, mill 5 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Trample. Whenever a commander an opponent controls dies, the ring tempts you. That is very interesting. We have Saruman the White Hand. So for 1 blue, black, red, we have an Avatar Wizard. This is a 2/5. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, amass Orcs X, where X is that spell's mana value. Wow. Okay. That could get very explosive very quickly. Goblins and Orcs you control have Ward 2. And also noted, this is perfect colors for Reiteration combo. So you could easily slot that into this. We have Treason of Isengard, Bitter Downfall. I'm just going to flip through the reprints from Lord of the Rings quickly. Bitter Downfall, Troll of Khazad-dûm, Gracious Fellbeast, Fiery Inscription, Grishnok Brass Instigator. We have some of the actual commander cards. Arcane Denial. Now I believe this was banned in Pauper a while back. Very good counter spell overall. Let's see if we can... Oh. Bright light. Yeah, counter target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. This was originally in Ice Age, I believe. Yeah, it seems right. It's either Ice... It might have been Homelands, but pretty sure it was Ice Age. Boon of the Wishgiver. This is a more recent reprint, but 4 blue, sorcery, draw 4 cards, and has cycling for 1. Consider. This is actually in Standard, so I might actually pull these for my Standard deck, because I do run Considers in my Standard deck. But for a blue, you have an instant with Surveil 1, and then draw a card. This is the new templating for cards like this as well. So I believe this is the first printing with this templating. Good old Deep Analysis, originally from Prophecy? Judgment? Judgment. It's one with the 2 scales. 3 in a blue sorcery, target player draws 2 cards, and then flashback for 1 in a blue and 3 life. Good old Thoth. 3 in a blue, instant. Feel the top cards of your library. An opponent separates them into 2 piles. Put 1 pile in your hand and the other into your graveyard. This used to be a really popular thing to play at the end of your opponent's turn. It still is, but in Standard, it was quite effective at that. Forbidden Alchemy. This is originally from Dark Ascension, I think, maybe Innistrad. The original Innistrad block. I remember that. 2 in a blue, instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them in your hand, the rest in your graveyard, and then flashback for 6 in a black. Yeah, Feed the Swarm. This was from... It's a newer printing. This was from Zendikar Rising. 1 in a black sorcery. Destroy target creature or enchantment and opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's mana cost. This is one of the few ways that black has to get rid of enchantments. Merciless Executioner, 2 and a black, for a 3/1 Orc Warrior. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. This is it's a functional reprint of Fleshbag Marauder, but Merciless Executioner was actually reprinted previously, or printed previously. Revenge of Ravens, this was from Throne of Eldraine. 3 and a black enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that player's controller loses a life and you gain a life. This was huge in both sealed and draft for Throne of Eldraine. This, along with food, really could make games take a very long time. Anger. This is another classic. This, I think this was from Judgment too. It's been a while. This was in the same cycle as Wonder and Valor, and Brawn and Filth. They're all creatures that, while they're in your graveyard, give you an effect if you control a basic land that corresponds to their color. 3 and a red for a 2/2 with haste, but that almost never matters, because as long as Anger is in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste, which is fantastic. Faithless Looting, so good it was banned in Modern. For red, you get a sorcery, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and then flashback 2 and a red. Mouth of Sauron, that's a reprint from, or that's from the main set of Lord of the Rings, so we're not going to cover that. Goblin Crater Maker, this is another reprint. Actually used in Modern and Legacy Goblins, and I believe Explorer Goblins as well. But 1 and a red, 2/2 Goblin Warrior for a colorless, and sacrifice it. Choose 1. Deal 2 damage to target creature, or destroy target colorless non-land permanent. So this is generally used to blow up artifacts. Gutter Snipe. This is from RTR originally, if I remember correctly. I don't think it was from the original Ravnica, but I could be wrong. I don't remember it being in the original Ravnica. Or was it in Guild Pact? It might have been in Guild Pact. I'm just misremembering. But 2 and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Nice thing is that gets around a lot of effects that prevent targeting. Shiny Impetus, 2 and a red. Enchantment Aura. Enchant Creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. It's a good way of redirecting your opponent's big bad creature to something else. Thrill of Possibility. Now this is also legal in Standard. Been reprinted approximately a bajillion times, but still a very good way to get things into your graveyard and get a little bit of advantage. But 1 and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards. Extract from Darkness, 3 blue-black, sorcery. Each player mills 2 cards. Then you put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Not just your graveyard, any graveyard. Alright, 2 mana Arcane Signet. We all know what this does by now, but a nice new reprint with new art. Basalt Monolith. Very nice. This is used in 4 Horsemen combo. It's also used in some of the newer, specifically Legacy 4 Horsemen. It is also used in a number of other decks where you either want fast mana or a way to infinitely tap and untap an artifact. You'll notice that the untap cost on this is the same as the amount of mana this taps for, so you can just constantly tap and untap it. This, along with Mesmeric Orb, actually allows you to mill your entire deck in any color identity within Commander. Commander Sphere, 3 mana Mana Rock that you can sack to draw a card. Overflowing Chalice. Nice reprint on this. New art. So 0 mana artifact with multi-kicker 2. It enters the battlefield with a number of charge counters on it for each time it was kicked. Add colorless for each charge counter on it. This is commonly used with things like Surge Node or with Proliferate to just keep adding counters on it to make more and more mana. Mindstone. This is the first time we've had new art in a while for Mindstone. Originally from Weatherlight, which might favorite set of all time. But 2 mana artifact taps for colorless, and then 1 tap sack, draw a card. Corsairs of Umbar. I believe this is one of the new cards for the set. You have 3 and a blue for a 3/3 human pirate. 2 and a blue, target goblin, orc, or pirate can't be blocked this turn. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, amass 3 orcs. Or amass orcs 3, rather. Monstrosity of the Lake. 4 and a blue for a 4/6 legendary kraken. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 5. If you do, tap all creatures your opponents control, then put a stun counter on each of those creatures. And it has island cycling for 2. Very nice. Subjugate the Hobbits. 5 blue sorcery. Gain control of each non-commander creature with mana value 3 or less. Whoa. That is a big one. Shelob, Dreadweaver, or Dreadweaver, rather. 3 and a black, for a 3/3 legendary demon spider, or spider demon, rather. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, exile it. 2 and a black, put a creature card exiled with Shelob, Dreadweaver, into its owner's graveyard. Put 2/1/1 counters on Shelob, draw a card. X, 1 and a black, put target creature card with mana value X exiled with Shelob onto the battlefield tapped under your control. A very nice way of both preventing your opponent's things from going to the graveyard and, I guess it doesn't actually prevent it, it just exiles it in addition, but prevents them from putting things in the graveyard from play long term and effectively stealing those and growing it. Also, it's a nice little draw engine. Cavern Horde Dragon, 7 red. For 6/6 dragon with flying, trample, and haste. It costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent controls. Whoa. So this could cost as little as 2 red. As red, rather. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create an artifact, or create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls. Wow. Okay, it's got some juice. Orcish Siege Master, 2 and a red for a 0/5 Orc Soldier, trample. Other orcs and goblins you control have trample. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. I have seen this played a little bit in goblins, not very much though. Rampaging War Mammoth, 5 red for a 9/7 elephant with trample, and has cycling X, 2 and a red. Whenever you cycle Rampaging War Mammoth, destroy up to X target artifacts. Now this has seen a little bit of play in already, both in Modern and in Legacy, as a good sideboard card. They have the Balrog of Moria, 4 black red, for a legendary avatar demon. It's an 8/8 with trample and haste. When it dies, you may exile it. When you do, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. And it has cycling for 3 and a red. When you cycle it, create 2 treasure tokens. Grima, Saruman's Footman. 2, a blue and a black. For a legendary human advisor, it's a 1/4 that can't be blocked. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast a card without paying its mana cost. Then that player puts the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of their library in a random order. One of the great parts of the poem from The Lord of the Rings, in the darkness bind them. 2 blue, red. It's a saga with 4 stages. 1 through 3, create a 3/3 black wraith creature token with menace. The ring tempts you. And then on chapter 4, for each opponent, gain control of up to 1 target creature that player controls until the end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn. The ring tempts you. So this on its own can tempt you from 0 to 4. So, interesting mechanic there. We have Lidless Gaze. 2 black-red sorcery. Exile the top card of each player's library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast them. It has flashback 2 black and a red, so it flashes back for the same cost as the original spell. Lord of the Nazgul. 3 blue-black for 4/3 legendary Wraith Noble with flying. Wraiths you control have protection from ring bearers. Okay. That's interesting. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 3/3 black Wraith creature token with menace. Then if you control 9 or more Wraiths you control have base power and toughness 9/9 until end of turn. Nice. That, along with reiterate combo, does some very, very nice things. One moment. All right, we have Moria Scavenger. 1 black-red for an Orc Rogue. 1/4 with Death Touch and Haste. Tap, discard a card, draw a card. If the card discarded this way was a creature card, amass Orcs 1. This can be used alongside Intruder Alarm to just churn through your deck as well. Actually, can it? No, because it doesn't actually churn through your deck. Never mind, that was a mistake. Forgot it was amass 1, not create an Orc token. If it was create an Orc token, it would. There's Summons of Saruman. X blue-red sorcery. Mass Orcs X. Mill X cards. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value X or less from among them without paying its mana cost. It has flashback 3 blue-red exile X cards from your graveyard. Okay. That could get pretty crazy pretty quickly. 2 greedy, 2 deep. 5 black-red sorcery. Target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. The creature deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. Wow. I could do some stuff. I could do some big stuff. Wake the Dragon. So it's both a board wipe and a reanimate together, which is nice. Wake the Dragon, 4 black-red. Sorcery. Create a 6/6 black and red dragon with a creature token with flying menace, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, gain control of target artifact that player controls. It has flashback for 6 black-red. Relic of Sauron. Have 4 mana artifact with tap, add 2 mana of any combination of blue, black, and or red. 3 and tap, draw 2 cards, discard a card. Nice. Nice little mana rock there. The Black Gate. So it's a legendary land gate, so this actually interacts with the Baldur's Gate gates and the Ravnica gates as well. As the Black Gate enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. Tap out a black, 1 and a black, tap. Choose a player with the most life or tied for the most life. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn. Oh. Okay. So it's a way of giving evasion through. That's neat. Decree of Pain. Nice, very nice reprint of this. 6 black. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. Also cycling for 3 black. When you cycle it, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. We have Languish. This was in Magic Origins. But 2 black sorcery. All creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. This is a beautiful version, or new art on it. Living Death. Wow. This was originally from Tempest and was a part of some of my favorite combo decks back then. And some of my favorite extended combo decks up until the early 2000s. But 3 black for sorcery. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyards and sacrifices all creatures they control. Then puts all cards they exiled this way onto the battlefield. One of my favorite things to do with this was using Fluctuator combo. So Fluctuator is an artifact from Urza's Saga, I think? It was either Urza's Saga or Urza's Legacy, that made cycling cost 2 less. And then you just ran all of the cycling creatures and cycling lands, and you would cycle until you had just a couple of Dark Rituals and Living Death in your hand and a graveyard full of stuff as early as possible. And then you'd play Living Death and have a giant board full of stuff. And generally your opponent wouldn't have anything. We have Reanimate. Nice. This is used heavily in Legacy and still used in Vintage. Pretty big in Commander as well, but it's the most efficient Reanimate spell ever printed. For single black sorcery, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana cost. Doesn't sound like much. One of the most powerful Reanimate spells ever printed. Blasphemous Act. 8 and a red, sorcery. This spell costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. So if there are 8 creatures in play, this costs 1. Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature. Nice board wipe. Goblin Dark Dwellers. This is a reprint from it was either Oath of the Gatewatch or Battle for Zendikar. This was a really heavily played card at the time. It might have actually been from Magic Origins, now that I think about it. It was from around that time. But for 3 red, you have a 4/4 Menace Goblin. When it enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. That spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Very powerful effect. Good old Inferno Titan. This was from M10, M11, somewhere around there. It was one of the first times where they added new cards into the core sets. But for red, you have 6/6 Giant that when it enters the battlefield or attacks, deals 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. And then for a red, it has Fire Breathing. So for a red, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Nullspine Dragon, 5 red for a 7/5 flying dragon. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard your hand and draw cards equal to the damage dealt to target opponent this turn. That can do a whole lot of stuff. Could let you draw a ton of cards if you attacked for a bunch. Scourge of the Throne, 4 red for a 5/5 flying dragon with Dethrone. Whenever this creature attacks, the player with the most life or tied for the most life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's when it attacks, not when it deals damage, by the way. So you can grow it immediately. Whenever it attacks for the first time each turn, if it's attacking the player with the most life or tied for the most life, untap all attacking creatures. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. This is yet another way, along with like Combat Celebrant and similar cards, to get multiple combat steps, which, considering some of the things that you do when you attack players, pretty good. And we have good old Siege Gang Commander, affectionately known in my circle of friends as Gangbang Commander, because of how it would just absolutely wreck players when it was first printed. This was originally in, I want to say Scourge? I knew it. No, it couldn't have been Scourge. It was either Onslaught or Legions, sorry. And this thing could just end games very quickly. When it comes into play, it creates 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, and it's a 2/2, so on its own, it's for 5 mana, you're putting 5 power on the board. Then for 1 and a red and sacrifice a goblin, it can deal 2 damage to any target. So, in the span of 1 turn, if you have enough mana, or if you have some way of generating a bunch of mana, like with Skirk Prospector, you can play this, make a bunch of goblins, and then just start machine gunning goblins into your opponent. It ends games very quickly. So it's not as good as it once was, but at the time it was one of the best goblins ever printed. Hence its nickname. Treasure Nabber. 2 and a red for a goblin rogue. It's a 3/2. Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn. Wow. So, I think this is a new card. This could be like Dockside Extortionist level good. It's a very, very strong card. Hostage Taker. This was from Ixalan originally? Yeah, but it was either Ixalan or Rivals of Ixalan. I'm pretty sure it was Ixalan. No, it had to have been Ixalan. 2 blue-black, human pirate, 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, exile another target creature or artifact until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield. You may cast a card as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. This is one of the first cards that ever had an emergency errata before the card actually saw play. So originally it didn't say another target creature. It just said target creature. So if you played this into an empty board, because it's not a voluntary target, like you have to choose a target. If you played this into an empty board, it would actually cause a draw. Because it would enter the battlefield. If it was the only legal target, it would target itself. It would leave the battlefield. It would cause it to re-enter the battlefield, which, you know, that just goes on forever, and there's no way to stop it. So that card had to be emergency errated. Notion Thief. Okay. This is, if I remember correctly, one of the few valuable cards out of Dragon's Maze. I think that's right. 2 blue-black for a 3/1 human rogue with flash. If an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw each of their draw steps, instead that player skips that draw and you draw a card. So this is fantastic along with anything that forces everyone to draw, especially if you can force them to discard. So wheel effects, very strong. Things like Windfall, Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune, stuff along those lines. Very strong with Notion Thief. Choked Estuary. This is one of the buddy lands. Desolate Lighthouse. Oh, that is beautiful reprint. This was from Avacyn Restored, I believe, originally. Taps for a colorless, and then 1 blue-red, and you get to loot. Dragon Skull Summit. Absolute beautiful new printing of it. This will likely replace the original ones that I have that have been in rotation for a while. But it's the Czech land, or the fast, no, it's not the fast land. It's the, it's the buddy land, I guess. I forget what we actually called these. Yeah, we're just going to say the buddy land, or Swamp and Mountain. You're on Catacombs, same thing, but for blue-black. Foreboding Ruins, it's one of the reveal lands for blue-black, or for red-black. Crosswell Snarl, this is from Strixhaven, one of the more recent new additions. It's the new reveal land. The original cycle was for Battle for Zendikar, if I remember correctly. The Snarls completed the cycle, if memory serves. Smoldering Marsh. This is the buddy land. Actually, was Foreboding Ruins back then? I don't remember. It has been forever. Smoldering Marsh. Enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. It is Swamp Mountain. This can be fetched with fetch lands, just something to consider. Sulphur Falls. It's one of the buddy lands. Or it's the buddy land for blue-red. Also just absolutely gorgeous. I love the art on these. Sulphurous Spring. It's the black-red Painland. I hope they did the full cycle of Painlands, because those are actually in standard right now. And this is gorgeous. So, Sunken Hollow. It's the same as the Smoldering Marsh. It is the Tango Land, that's what we called these. Underground River, very nice. So the Pain Land. Beautiful Soul Ring. There is an Elvish version of this art, and it goes for several hundred, if not a couple $1,000s. Worn Power Stone. Oh, crap. So we have Underground River and Sulphur Springs. It doesn't look like we have... doesn't look like we have... Not Yokomaya Coast. The blue-red one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, and I use it all the time. Shivan Reef. Doesn't look like Shivan Reef is in here. Unless they did a rename version of it, but we'll see that. Worn Power Stone. So 3 mana rock comes into play tap for 2 colorless. This is good enough to be in the Vintage Cube. So if that tells you anything. Command Tower. It's in every commander deck. Ooh, really nice new art though. Crumbling Necropolis. This was the Grixis Wedgeland from Shards of Alara, or Shardland rather, from Shards of Alara. Evolving Wilds. We all know what that is by now. Field of Ruin with really nice new art. Cast for colorless, 2, tap and sacrifice it, destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. Each player searches their library for a basic land, puts it on the battlefield, then shuffles. Oddly enough, I think in multiplayer games that applies to all players, so it's actually a ramp for the 2 players that aren't interacting. It's a little strange. Path of Ancestry, enters the battlefield tapped, and then taps for any color of your commander's color identity. Also in pretty much every commander deck. When it's spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. We have Rogue's Passage, 4 mana to make something unblockable. Terramorphic Expanse, it's literally just Evolving Wilds with a different name. We have some beautiful islands. Really nice swamps. I love that. Love the art on these. Some mountains. Great looking mountains. And then we have the cardboard stand-in version for Sauron. Lord of the Rings. We have some tokens. Looks like a nice set of tokens too. Oh, that's perforated too. Dang. Thought they'd actually done a good job and printed a non-perforated version of that token. Alright, so we have an orc army that is also... We have a 2-sided orc army. That makes perfect sense. We have a food token that is a wraith on the back end. We have a goblin that's also a wraith. Another goblin, wraith. Goblin, wraith. I like those goblin tokens. Very nice. Dragon, 2 dragons that are also wraiths. I bet we've got 9 wraith tokens. We've got 3 treasures that are also wraiths. Very cool. Then we have the ring, and then the ring temp 2 rules explained on the back of that. It's nice. And then turn order reminder. And that is the Some Things of Mordor. Why can't I remember this? The Hosts of Mordor commander deck. It's overall some absolutely stunning reprints. A lot of value in these too. And if you want to start into Magic, these are a great way to do it. Gives you access to some cards that can help you in a bunch of different formats. Who knows, you might pull something really cool from the sample boosters, and yeah, just great reprints, and decent commander decks on top of that. So, thank you for joining me on this adventure through Middle-earth. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel in a non-monetary fashion. If you'd also like to help out the channel in a monetary fashion, we do have a Patreon linked in our About page. So if that's something that interests you, check it out. If not, that's cool too. Yeah. As always, until next time, stay awesome. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.